Hey everybody, in this episode we have a special guest. His name is Dustin. He is in fact serving 18 years in prison in Connecticut. Now, he's been a listener of the podcast for some time now, so we've been corresponding back and forth a little bit, and he wanted to come on the podcast and share a little bit of his story. And I'll tell you this, it's pretty remarkable. He has all the reasons in the world to continue to use, and he chose not to. He may have 7 or 8 years left in prison, and he is still choosing to stay clean and sober. So we get into a lot of detail, what landed him in prison and what made him make that decision to finally get clean and sober. And he did that almost 2 years ago. I know you're going to get a lot out of this episode. Enjoy the show. We thought it'd be a good idea for you to come on and, share a little bit of your story and, see if you can shed some light on what happened to you, what's going on now, being in prison and stuff, what landed you there. And, in the end, just, share your story, dude. I know you're crushing it in there for what it's worth. It's prison. So, but you're there and you're making the best of it. And, I wanted you to share on that. So, you got about 15 people here that are staring at me, waiting for you to start talking. So the floor, say hello. Hello. So the floor is yours.
All right. So my name is Dustin. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. My sobriety date is December 1st of 22. Currently, I'm in a Connecticut prison in Cheshire, and I'm serving 18 years for a home invasion that I committed under the influence of crack. That's where, I'm at now, but give you a little backstory, I guess. Born and raised in Sharon, Connecticut, bounced around between Connecticut and New York, for my childhood and most of my life, just back and forth. But, so parents divorced at 6, and that was the first traumatic experience that just shattered my whole life. It was just something that just made me just not understand anything. I just, thought your parents stay together forever, and it was just that changed my life. It was terrible, and I just took it, worse than most kids probably would. I'm sure some take it bad, but I took it really bad, and that I used as an excuse for my behavior in school, out of school, my whole life. Everything was everybody else's fault. It was that my mom left my dad, and that my mom was a drunk, or my dad was partying too much. And I come from a family of addicts and alcoholics. I got an aunt sobriety that's been sober for at least 5 or 6 years, maybe close to 10. I'm not sure. I haven't really talked to her too much, but my mom was sober for 4 years at one point when her brother died. He was 27. He died of an overdose. And I was, 8, 9, and she started working the AA program and stayed sober for 4 years and relapsed. So addiction runs in my family. Her uncle that died from a construction accident, but he had heroin problems and legal trouble as well. So I grew up just blaming everybody else for everything that went wrong, how I felt, and look for some other way to cope with how I felt. And that was through weed at first, at about 13. That's when I started smoking. I pretty much smoked every day until I was 18, 19, when I got real big, heavy into crack cocaine. I dropped out of high school at 16, moved out on my own. Thought, I could do things my way, because, I couldn't live at home if I didn't go to school. That was the rules. So I moved out with my girlfriend, got our own place, 16 years old, working 50, 60 hours a week in a restaurant, and it was just, it was just hectic. She was on and off working, and the relationship didn't go well. We broke up after about a year. I moved back home. My life was like shattered again. I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I fell into some minor legal trouble. I had some criminal mischief because we had a car together, and I kicked the mirrors off the car. And the car was not in my name; it was in her dad's name, just because I didn't have a license, even though it was my car. So I had to pay for that, and deal with all that stuff, and then had to have a lawyer for that. And my dad got me the lawyer, so I had to go work for the lawyer. And I met his grandson, and that's how I got introduced to heroin. He introduced me to it. And at the time I got introduced to heroin, I was totally sober. Like, for close to a month, I didn't smoke a cigarette. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke anything. I was training to go in the Army. I was trying to get my GED. I thought I had my life together. And all of a sudden, somebody says, "You ever tried heroin before?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, you want to?" And that little last paper bag came out, and I sniffed it for saw, and it was heaven. That was a little bit of a roller coaster ride for a little while. That got me like stealing from family even more. Stole from my grandfather. Got some more legal trouble from that. Stopped doing heroin because it was like making me sick when I did it. I never experienced the withdrawal symptoms, but every time I would sniff dope, I'd throw up, get sick, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta find something else. I was bringing a friend to get some heroin in Waterbury in Connecticut, like a freaking big drug hub in Connecticut. Like, we go out there, and he's just, we get it from his dealer, and he's like, "Hey, you want to try crack?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I had like $40 on me, so we bought $20 worth, smoked that, bought some more, and it was over. That first hit, the chase was on from then on until I got locked up. I was about 18 years old. I'm 28 now. I've been in about 8 years. So I had like a 2-year run of crack. And that's, once I took that first hit, it was just like, this is it. And just couldn't stop. Like, there was not an off switch. So once I started, it was I need more. Like, instantly. Like, it was so bad where I had to have 2 crack pipes because I was too impatient to wait for one to cool down. So it was just an endless cycle of that. Stealing from family again, it was just nonstop addict. I lived with my uncle. I moved in with my uncle after I was sitting in a mental hospital because I was threatening to kill myself. My dad, and just trying to cry out for attention. And, I just wanted help, but didn't really want to do anything. I just wanted everything handed to me. So he had the cops pick me up. I went to a mental hospital for a month. Got my way out of that pretty easily. Then I lived with my uncle. Stole $1,000 from him, and went off to Waterbury again and had a run for a few days and got thrown out of there. It was just not. That's like how my addiction went. It was like bouncing around from place to place, run out of money. And I always worked. Like, that was the other thing too. Like, I always worked in construction. I worked at gas stations. I worked at a detailing place, doing detailing cars. Like, I worked everywhere. But when I ran out of money, I stole from people. Usually the people I loved, people I cared about, people that looked out for me, employers, everything. I always burned bridges. I was living in New York City at one point and trying to get sober. Going to meetings all the time, and it just, nothing clicked. I didn't work the steps. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't do anything. All I did was go to meetings, drink coffee, and leave. Just left, get there, didn't really even talk to anybody, and would just leave, go home, and just drink coffee and smoke cigarettes. So obviously that didn't go well because I didn't do anything. Obviously lost my place in the city because that's just how things went. That was the cycle. Get everything together really fast, make some money, get high again, and then lose it all in the blink of an eye. I left the city, went back to my mom's house while she was in Vegas on her getting married with her husband, honeymoon and all that. So, she's got to deal with all that bullshit. so my uncle's watching the house, and, I'm like, I'm going back there, and he's telling her, I came back, and, it was havoc, just always putting my family through stress. I ended up they made me go to a rehab. They cut ties. They were like, we're not doing this anymore. Like, you got to figure this out. So my aunt that was sober at the time picked me up in Farmington, in some Scotland, Connecticut. It was about an hour away. Somebody from AA drove me there. Met halfway. She's from the eastern part of the state, so we met in the middle. And she brought me to the package store, got me a freaking bottle so I could go to a detox, because they wouldn't take me for crack cocaine. So the only way to get in was get drunk or have something else in your system that's going to get you in there and say that, you're going through alcohol withdrawals and whatever. So that's what we did. They brought me to the hospital. The next day I went to the detox, stayed there for a little while, and they shipped me to a rehab. It was supposed to be a 90-day program. I stayed less than a month. My birthday was coming up, and I called my grandmother, and I'm like, listen, I think I can do this thing on my own. I'll go to meetings, blah, 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 and I come live with you. She lived out that way where I went to rehab. She was going to come pick me up the next day. And everybody's begging me to stay. Everybody. I start telling people, listen, I'm leaving early. I'm leaving. Everybody's begging me to stay. So they go get my counselor, whose name is actually also Dustin. And he was not an addiction, total bookworm. It was just went to school and freaking became an addiction counselor. So nothing he said ever stuck with me. He didn't know what he was talking about. He's never been through what I've been through, this, that, and third. So they go get him, and he comes to me and is like, listen, you need to stay. Look at what you've done with your life, laid it all out for me, and he was like, listen, they're telling me if you're planning on leaving, you got to leave now. Either you make up your mind and say you're going to stay, or, so the taxi went to my grandmother's. Ended up stealing from her. She trusted me enough to let me use her car for work and all this stuff. And I was working for a painting out there. So for him, that was my first bit of legal issues that were I thought were serious, because I stole my boss's car, his credit card, and some money from his house when his wife and him were in New Jersey at his mother-in-law's. That was I was like, damn, I'm going to jail for a few years. I stole a car and a credit card, these are felonies. And I just started running. I was like, I can't stop running now. So I was, right after I stole all that stuff from my boss, I'm thinking I'm going to go to jail. I'm afraid of jail. Skinny white kid, young, I'm 19, 20. So I'm afraid of that. And I go back to where I'm from in New York and go to where my mom works, try talking to her, what do I do, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's begging me to turn myself in. She's begging me to turn myself in. Her coworkers in AA, another guy from AA, they're all telling me to turn myself in. That doesn't happen. I'm I'm not going to jail unless you bond me out, blah, blah, blah. So after that, we decided the next best thing would be me go to a rehab or something. So they brought me to this place called the Crisis Center. It was about almost 2 hours away. There was one in one city, and there was one in another city, which is in a whole other county. And I couldn't go to the one because I've been thrown out of there a million times, and they didn't want me anymore. So we went to the other one, which was it was not pleasant. So I stayed maybe a few hours, and I just was I can't do this. This isn't going to work. And left there, just AMA, grabbed my stuff and took off. Walked out of there and was how do I get out of here? I don't have my phone. I don't have a wallet. I have nothing. I had none of my stuff, no money, nothing. So about 2 hours from home, and I'm just I got to steal a car. I can't stay here. So I looked around, found a car, took that, went back to where my mom was and everything, drove around for a little bit, and ran out of gas. Walked to my mom's house, hid in her basement for a little while, and just like trying to figure out my next move. Like, I'm thinking, like, I got to run from the cops for the rest of my life. Like, I'm looking at 5-10 years, and I'm like about to run from the cops for the rest of my life. She's not home. I'm not like hiding in the basement, finished basement, my stepbrother's room. And she comes home, comes downstairs, and comes right in there. Like, she just knew I was there. I left my candy wrappers. I don't know if that was my subconscious leaving the trail or not, but she came in and was like, "What the hell are you doing here? You gotta leave, blah, blah, blah." So I went out back door so her husband didn't know. And while I was there, I found this screwdriver I was planning on breaking into the diner that she worked at, and it was right down the street, later at night. So I went and did that. I get like a ton of money from all the money from the day. All I got was what was in a register, a couple $100. And I thought I was going to get enough to like flee, just go somewhere and disappear. But I got a couple $100. I was like, all right, going to Waterbury. Went to Waterbury, got gas for the car, went to Waterbury. Ended up getting high, buying some crack, buying dope for no reason. And I knew where a car was that I could take. So I took this new dealer that I found. I'm like, you could just drive around and find a dealer. It was, anywhere you go. And if you knew certain areas, you could just stop and you know who to ask. So I was like, listen, I got a car you could use for, an 8-ball. And you could use it for a few days, a week, whatever you want. So brought him to get the car, gave him the keys, told him to get in the car. He was about to get in the car and somebody's yelling, "Hey, that's my husband's car," or "That's my car," or something. And he came back to the car and was like, "Hey, somebody's yelling." I'm like, "Hey, stop being a pussy, just give me the keys." And I just jumped in the car, and he took the car we were driving. And then on the way back, I was bringing him, it's like an hour away, so I got him back to where he's from. And I kept pulling over, and I'm smoking and all this stuff, and he was getting frustrated and pissed off. And he ends up just taking off. And I'm just like, whatever, I'll catch up with him. And I went to try to catch up with him. I'm driving right through the middle of this town. I'm close to 100 miles an hour, and there's cops. They start chasing me, and I lose them on this side road. And then I come to a bridge that's out. There's a cop sitting there. In Connecticut, cops will sit at work sites and all that. I didn't think that at the time. So a cop is sitting there, and I thought it was like a roadblock. So I tried to slam the car in reverse and turn around, and the engine just died and the car shut off. So I gathered all my things and went to the first house I saw, and I climbed the fence, went into the house, searched everywhere for car keys. And this, the whole thing, I'm searching for car keys and all this, probably 20 minutes, and our cop car is sitting there maybe 30 yards away, and cops probably sleeping. I don't even realize, what the hell's going on. It was so out of my mind, I could not think straight. So I ended up having to wake this guy up with his own shotgun that I found next to his bedside. I'm like, "Dude, I need your car keys." I've been looking everywhere for them, blah, 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 where are they? He walks me downstairs. I'm having to slip on lights as we go downstairs, and I'm like, "Where are the car keys? Where are the car keys?" He just lunges for the gun and grabs the barrel, and he's pushing it, and just instinctively, I pull the trigger, and he shoots him right in the shoulder, and I just see a flash of light and a hole in his shoulder. I turn around and run and leave, end up finding a car. I ran through the woods and found a car, a couple houses down, cutting through the woods, jump in this van, and take off and go back and look for the dealer so I can get paid, because I didn't get paid yet. So after that, I'm just running, from the cops, waiting to get arrested. I'm like, they got me. There's no mask, no gloves. I wasn't planning on doing this. I was just so out of my mind that I couldn't think. I'm just all I need to do is not go to jail. So a few days later, I get a little bit clear-headed, and I told my mom, and I'm like, Mom, you need to come pick me up. Yes, it was me that broke into the diner. And she's like crying. She's telling me, oh, they want you for this home invasion. I'm like, Mom, that wasn't me. Just come pick me up. Because I couldn't tell her, because I don't know how she would have reacted. It would have just broke her heart. So I went back to New York and turned myself in for the diner. And then spent, 5 months in the county in New York. And when I first got there, all I was doing was sniffing pills and, just trying to find any way to escape. Like, there was no way I could cope with what I just did, like how much time I could possibly be looking at, what jail was going to be like. And jail was not what I thought it was going to be like. I thought it was going to be this freaking dangerous place where you're worried about getting stabbed every day or whatever, extorted, this, that. None of that was the case. It was just, it really wasn't much different than being in a lockdown rehab, but with a bunch of criminals, and, everybody's just trying to get over on you. And, but it wasn't, I thought it was. It wasn't gladiator school. It wasn't like you see movies, where I was anyway. But I'm sure places are like that. But spent 5 months in New York getting high the whole time. I go to Connecticut. 18 months I'm in this lockdown, maximum security because of my bond. No drugs for 18 months. Terrible. It's the first 18 months I was sober since I was 13 years old, and I hated every minute of it. As soon as I got out of there and got to the jail I'm in now, within days, I find pills to sniff, and I'm getting high every day. I leave from that block to another block. That was the orientation unit. For like 3 months I was in there, and then went to another one. Within a week or two, I find Suboxone, do that. Did like one time, and ended up going to Seg for it, which is the whole, or whatever. And that was just the worst experience, having to go through that. That didn't teach me completely. I just wouldn't do that anymore. I'm like, all right, I'll go back to sniffing pills that I can't get in trouble for, because, there's no tests for them, or, whatever. You just get them from people that come on the med cart for, mental health reasons or whatever. And I did that for the next few years until, December 1st of 22. So around Thanksgiving that year, my dad was telling me, like, listen, there's this guy I know that's in AA. I think he's, somebody you should talk to. And he gave me his number. He was actually somebody I saw at a meeting, and I still to this day don't remember him at a meeting. Wow, that's how out of it I was. Like, I don't remember who was at those meetings, who I talked to, or anything. So he always asked about me. He knew my dad pretty well. My dad was paying her and worked for him. So I had his number and had to wait a certain amount of time till I could add numbers. We had like a numbered list. And once I added his number, I called him. He picked up and was like, I think you got the wrong number. And I was like, is this Luke? And he was like, yeah. And I said, well, then I got the right number. My dad gave me this number. This is Dustin. From then on, we just hit it off. And that was my first friend I've ever made in my life. Like, my first real friend. I never connected with anybody. I never trusted anybody the way I trusted my sponsor. It was just, we meshed so well, and I bought right in. Like, we just talked, he asked me a little bit about, what I went through and this and that, and it was, like, I was a little skeptical at first about being sober for the rest of my life or whatever. And I had a little bit of reservations about going home, and partying a little bit. I never thought I never had a problem drinking or smoking weed or doing, like, what I call the fun drugs. As long as I didn't do hard stuff, I was fine, I thought. And about a month later, I realized, like, I can't do anything. Like, I have to stay totally sober to live a normal life. Started working steps pretty quickly. step 4 was pretty easy for me. I didn't really have any problems with it. Like, I was already in prison, so I was like, I realized my life was my fault and not other people's, and all these resentments I'm carrying were just baggage holding me down. And I kind of already let them go before that. I think that was the 1-minute warning. I'm not sure. So I was lucky enough to have a sponsor that would call do Zoom meetings, and I'd be able to call them and, hear other people and share at Zoom meetings and speak out one a couple of times. And it was like every Thursday and Sunday we were doing it. And then the Thursday one got canceled and went back to it fully in person. So that one kind of washed away, and it was just Sundays. But, I connected with a few guys from there. I got about 5 or 6 people I call on a regular basis, including my sponsor, and they're like true friends. Like, I'll tell them anything. We can have conversations about AA, we can have conversations about regular stuff. Like, they understand what I go through. I understand what they go through, whether I'm in prison or they're out there. Like, we all have the same exact feelings, emotions. Like, it's all the same. Like, that was part of my problem when I tried to get sober before. I thought, like, these people are old. Like, going to AA, everybody's old. They're talking about their life problems and all this nonsense. Like, 20 years old, and I'm thinking, like, I can't sit in a room with these people and relate to them. And that was the problem. I was comparing and not relating, and identifying with what to say, and I just couldn't hear what they were saying. I heard what they were saying, but I didn't hear what they were saying. But this time, I had nothing to lose. I already lost everything. I was in prison for about 6 years at the time, and just said, I'm going to try something different, and I did, and it's worked ever since. Like, it's changed my life dramatically. Even though I'm in prison, I have been able to feel happier and freer than I ever felt on the outside world when I was using or before I used drugs when I was a kid. Like, I never felt connected with anyone. I never felt like anyone cared about me. I never felt like I cared about me. And now I have a whole new sense of self-respect and self-worth and relationships with people, relationships with my family. Recently, it was, I think June 1st was my 18-month anniversary, and I was able to do the 9th step with my father. He came up to visit me, and he had no idea it was coming. So towards the end of the visit, it was like the last 20 minutes, because I didn't want to start it off and ruin the visit in case it didn't go well. And he was so receptive and was so understanding and was just, everything that happens in the past is what you do in the future that matters. It was really emotional, but in a good way, and it definitely strengthened our bond. Because my dad's not an emotional person. Like, he does not like talking about stuff like that. So I was afraid to bring it up to him. But I did. And that was like the highlight of my sobriety, like, in steps is that, because like, now I was actually going and taking some real action. Like, doing the 4th step is one thing, and listing all your resentments, and then the 5th step and telling your sponsor, all this bullshit that you did and everybody you hurt and this, that, and the 3rd. But you're not actually, like, going and doing, like, apologizing and telling people, like, why you did what you did until the 9th step. When I did that with my father, it was just like, that was a great experience. I was not big into God. That was like the word that turned me off when I first tried to get sober before coming to prison. And anytime I heard that word, I was like, people are crazy. This is a cult. Like, but it's just a higher power of my own understanding. And I'm fine. Like, I can do that. People just say God and it doesn't bother me now. No, I don't choose to call my higher power God. It's just I have a higher power. I don't believe in like this organized religion or anything. And that's what I hear when people say God. I just shut that part of my brain off. Like if somebody says God, it's their higher power. It's whatever they choose. Like, you know, so that was a big hurdle for me. And I just had to have an open mind. Like this program, you have to have an open mind. You have to be honest. You have to be willing. You have to be determined to stay sober. You can't. The biggest thing for me too, another one, is I had to do this for me. When I wanted to get sober, I wanted to get sober. Like I wasn't because I wanted the job back. I wanted the family. I wanted a car. I wanted people to like me. It was because I just was sick and tired of the way I was living. And I was like, let me try to get sober and see how it goes. Like, what the fuck can I lose? You have to want to be sober for yourself. And that's the biggest thing. It can't be to get your kids back. It can't be to get the law off your ass. It can't be any of those things, but because that's what you want. And that's the only way I think for me it was going to work. It took a prison sentence, 6 years of getting high and going through bullshit, and just a phone call to just spark that like in me. It's like that. Before my dad gave me that number, one day I woke up and I was like, I'm not getting high anymore. And then that just came into my life right after. Like after I made the conscious decision to say, I'm not going to get high anymore, that number fell in my lap, my sponsor fell in my lap, and my life is just snowballed from there in a good way. 18 months later, well, 21 months later, you know, now I'm in one of the best jobs that you can have in the prison system. And I'm living a life that's worth living, even though I'm in prison. My family is there for me, financially, emotionally. I'm in contact with my little brothers and siblings that I wasn't in contact with years ago. And I have hope to just have a better life, like whether I'm in here or out there. Like I go around and there's a few guys in here that I'll get together with and we'll read out of the big book or try to have a little meeting together. So recently I just got a new cellmate. I got something in that's about sobriety. So, you know, do what I can to share whatever I have been through. And, you know, it's good to be with somebody that is on the same wavelength as me rather than somebody who's not in the same mind frame, because it's just more comfortable. Like I have had no desire to get high, no desire to drink since pretty much I started working this program the right way. I'll let Tom or Nicole say something and see if they want to ask any questions, or if anybody wants to ask any questions or anything.
Awesome, dude. Thanks for sharing all that, man. No, that's fine. Totally cool. Everybody was engaged. Yeah, I think what I would like to do, if you're cool with it, give the group here an opportunity just to, you know, share what they heard, you know, and ask questions or whatever. I mean, you and I can talk whenever. Same with Nicole. You know, let's give the people here an opportunity to share something. Yeah. So,
hi. So I'm a guy from Puerto Rico, and man, you took me back to reality. I should be in jail right now because I was with too many grams of drugs, and cops Alabama like looking for me, and you took me back to reality. That how bad it is. Like I don't know. That's all I have to say. Thank you, man.
Hello there. It's pretty inspiring to hear. You know, you said all the years you were outside, life has been so much better for you since you started working the program inside in prison. You know, that's a great thing. It shows the steps do good for people. But thank you for your share. I really appreciate it.
Hey, my name is Jenny, but I just wanted to thank you for sharing. Hearing you're really inspirational, knowing that you're in there and able to, to fight forward and to feel the way that you feel about your sobriety. But I just wanted to thank you for sharing. It is inspirational for sure.
How's it going, man? My name is Danny. I'm an alcoholic.
How's it going?
It's going good, man. Definitely tell you a crazy story, man. But I can definitely relate to, things falling into place once you definitely make that decision to, to get sober for yourself, to get right. It's like you become willing to see the things you couldn't see before. And, I'm assuming you have a lot of time to think in there. So, I'm pretty sure you had your thoughts in order. I know that I got my thoughts in order once I hit rehab. I guess I'm curious, I would assume it takes a lot. We have a lot more access out here to groups and therapists. How was that for you? I guess waiting for phone calls from sponsor or the group and stuff like that. Like, were you anxious? How does that look for you in there?
Yeah, so in here, that's the thing. Like you said, there's more access out there. Here, it's you got to take the wheel. Nobody's going to do it for you. No, there's very little they offer in here. So, luckily we have tablets, and I got 6 free phone calls a day, so I can. If I call one number, if they don't answer, I call another number. If they don't answer, I call the next number. And if I go through all the numbers, I go through all the numbers. People have lives, people are busy, but I just have to do what I got to do. I read my daily reflection every day in the morning before I go to work, and I just try to be the best I can be in here, regardless, being in here. It just doesn't matter that everybody else has their own agenda. Like, my agenda is to be part of the solution and not the problem. And that's what my sponsor always says. So it's not, I don't really get, it's not, it hasn't been difficult for me to stay sober. It hasn't been a challenge. There's access to, if I wanted to get high or drunk, get high or drunk. Like, it's not a freaking, total lockdown like that. It's just, it's a little harder to make things happen, but it happens. So, I don't know. I don't, if I can't get in contact with somebody, I can pray, I can meditate, I can read, I can go talk with somebody in here. Try to help somebody in here, and that's what I do to stay sober. Like, if I can't talk to somebody that's big into AA out there and sober for longer than I've been sober, then I'll go help somebody. Go help the next person. That's what this program is about. It's about helping the next person and trying to give your message to somebody else, and maybe you'll help them spark something in them, like it was sparked into me. I'm gonna have to call right back.
All right, no worries. Hey, man, Danny here again. Just to close out with my question, you made a really good point. Out here we do have more access to meetings and things of that nature, but we also have access to distractions and, life on life terms. And I find that people in recovery find it easy to make excuses to put recovery in the back seat. You're setting an example with your story on how you stay determined, even when it's not readily available to you, as easy as it is for us. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, my name is Felix. I'm an alcoholic. Well, I like the part that you said that you have to get sober because you want to be sober. You don't do it for anybody else. And that's important, I think, because, like, let's say somebody who's trying to be sober doesn't get the job they want, doesn't get the house they want, or the loved ones still don't forgive them. Then that, they say, well, that didn't work. I'm just going to keep using or drinking. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty powerful that you mentioned that, and it makes a lot of sense. And again, thank you for your share. It's a big deal, and hope you have a good day.
Hello, Dustin. My name is Joe. You and I share one thing in common, and it's somewhat ironic. You're in prison. I work at prison. I'm more likely to have been the guy chasing you than to have been you. But we're both addicts, and I'm no better than you are. And I think the thing that I would want to convey to you the most is the people that work there that are on the other side of the bars from you, they have the same problems. And we all have our days, and I've been that guy. I've been that guy that you've gone to bed and probably hated. I don't know what else to say besides that. I mean, I can't say that I apologize for what I do, because I don't. But I don't know. I'm just kind of speechless. This is my first day here, and I'm just kind of bewildered that this is happening. So
I appreciate it, dude. Don't feel any type of way. Like, I don't feel like, the guards here, like, I don't look at them like, oh, they're fucking cops, they're assholes, blah, blah. It's not an us against them mentality in my brain. It's, they're people, they're doing their job,
Okay.
Some of them are assholes, some of them are good people, some of them just have problems, so it is what it is. Like, that's there's plenty of people that work here that are probably in AA or need to be, so
we're all people. At the end of the day, we're all people. That's just kind of what it comes down to. So I really appreciate your share, man. Thank you.
Hey, it's Nicole.
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to come on and I want to say thank you. That last share with Joe just made me really emotional, because I was just talking to the clients before we came on and talked about how our humanity is what makes us the same, regardless of our socioeconomic backgrounds or race or ethnicity or what have you. And I just think it's what a God moment, higher power moment, where Joe is here on his first day and we're doing this, and just that connection that he just had, it was just really beautiful to watch. And I don't know, it's just, when I hear your story, I'm just extremely inspired. It just reminds me about how we're really, truly free when we are in touch with the internal world. The external world doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. You are just an incredible human, and I just want to send you a lot of love, a lot of light in there. People like you, the people that are in front of me, are the reason I get up every day and come to work, even on days when I don't want to. So, yeah, I just got really inspired by your words and your story. And, I'm going to tell you something I tell my clients as if you were one of mine, that you are not your mistakes, you're not your disease, and you're not your past. And that your worth is inherent. I don't care what your rap sheet says about you. At the end of the day, you're Dustin, period. So,
I appreciate that, Nicole.
I mean that with all my heart. And I would give you a huge hug if you were here.
All right, man. That was fun.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me do this. This is a great experience. This is something that's, I don't even know if it's ever been done. But it was pretty awesome to be able to do that,
Yeah.
It's good to hear the feedback. It's good to be able to share. I haven't been able to do that at a meeting in a long time, but it's especially some guys that are in rehab that are just trying to see if they want to try this thing out or not, and see if this thing works. And it really does. And we're all living proof of that. Anybody that's working the program and it's working for them, we're living proof that it works. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, I think that given your situation, your circumstances, I don't say this lightly. I mean, if you're, you have all the reason in the world in there to not get sober, but you have found reason to do it. And I think that, that in and of itself is extremely powerful. I mean, there's I don't know. I've never spent a day in jail in my life, and I wouldn't last probably, and I'm okay with that. But it's just cool seeing that, you're in there doing the deal and helping people, and, even doing this, your message can reach the people outside of there. And, I want to try and make that happen in some capacity. So, all right, man. Well, listen, you got my number. You put me on that list.
Yes,
Call me whenever you need. And, yeah, man, I appreciate you doing this for us.
All right, man. We'll stay in touch. All right.
Thank you,
bye.
Dustin.
Thank you.
See you, man. So what was really cool about that episode and the opportunity of being able to do that, it really put things into perspective for me in the sense that if he can get clean and sober inside prison, then really there's no excuse. I mean, really, if you think about it, he has absolutely every excuse in the world to continue to drink and use drugs while inside prison. And he has made the conscious decision that even though he still has potentially another 7-8 years left to go in prison, that he's going to make the best of it. Seeing what he has gone through and the transformation that has taken place in his life is really remarkable, to say the least. He's gone through so much, and I've had the pleasure of being able to talk to him on a couple different occasions, and you could just hear it in his voice. He's happy. He's content. He feels like his life is finally amounting to something, which is something that he hasn't felt in a long time. And I don't know, I just think it's super cool that he was able to come on and share with us, his story, and my clients were able to hear from somebody that is actively sitting inside of prison and what they do on a daily basis to stay sober. So I hope you got a lot out of that episode, and I hope to be doing more of these in the future. So that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.